Oshawa.
Thank you. I move that, in the opinion of this House, the Government of Ontario should immediately and fully adopt the recommendations of the jury in the coroner's inquest into the deaths of Adam Brunt and Gary Kendall to help better ensure the safety of Ontario firefighters and firefighter trainees.
Okay. Ms. French has moved private members' notice motion number 65. Pursuant to Standing Order 98, the member has 12 minutes for her presentation.
Thank you, Speaker. It is always my privilege to stand in this legislature, and today, together with the families and friends of two men who tragically died, I'm calling on this government to immediately and fully adopt the recommendations of the jury in the coroner's inquest into their deaths to help better ensure the safety of Ontario firefighters and firefighter trainees. I have been working with these families and firefighter safety advocates for 2.5 years now, Speaker, and it is my honour to introduce them. Adam's parents, Al and Christy Brunt, sister Ashley and family members Debbie and Larry Brunt, Carl Pierce, Brent and Tracy Pierce are here today. The Kendall family, Gary's wife Brenda, brother Paul and daughter Marissa, family friends Wes Mazer and Tyler Mazer also join us. From the Ontario Professional Firefighters, we're joined by OPFFA District Vice President Dan Vanderlily, and also joining us, TJ Thompson, who was a student with Adam in the course, and Alex Van Kralogen, who was a lawyer involved in this for 7 years, who spoke today at our press conference, joined by Nick Hansen. Thank you all for coming today. Speaker, 2.5 years ago, I learned of the death of Adam Brunt, a young man who wanted to be a firefighter and who tragically died during a private rescue training course. I felt heartsick and was compelled to know what had gone wrong. We then found out that another family, the family of Gary Kendall, had lost a loved one the same way 5 years before. It has been a long and emotional journey for everyone involved, and it has been my privilege to know these families and to struggle through this exhausting and frustrating process with them. It has taken a long time to get here, but hopefully today we can begin to move forward. Before we do, I'd like to take us back a bit. The reason we are here is because two men died, and I want us to know who they were. Gary's daughter Marissa wrote this for me to share. Quote, Gary was 51 when he was involved in the ice water training exercise. He was a hard-working, loving father, husband, and brother. Everything he did in life was for his family. He had a wife and 3 children who were his whole world. He was the type of dad who worked hard during the day and spent his evenings taking his kids to sporting events, helping them with homework, or supporting them in their current interests. He was the type of man who would give the shirt off his back to help anyone in his community with never having an expectation of receiving anything in return. When he joined the Point Edward Fire Department, he was beyond happy because it was something he could do to not only help protect his community, but it was something he could do to give back. Gary is missed every single day by his family, and they are sitting here today after 7 long years in hopes that the government will support the prevention of another needless death. Thank you. Adam Brunt's father, Al, shared this on behalf of Adam's family. Quote, Adam was our second child, born on January 31st, 1985. He touched many lives in his 30 years, and he is greatly missed. It is difficult to put into words who Adam was. He seemed larger than life. He was an animal lover with many pets. He was an avid fisherman and loved camping and his friends. He had a huge heart, and you could rely on Adam to be readily available no matter the time. He was unique with his own style sense, best remembered as a young man with a mullet relaxing around the house in his boxer shorts or track pants. He was daring and fun-loving, always looking for new challenges, and if you told him something was not possible, he would spend hours figuring out a solution. Though he was the middle child, he was the protective older brother, and it did not come as a surprise when Adam decided he wanted to be a firefighter like his uncle, a career in which he could dedicate his life to helping others. He had never been happier in school than when he was doing the firefighting program at Durham College. Adam had found his calling. And although Adam was taken from us too soon, he certainly lived his short life to the fullest. We can only imagine the things he would have done if he was still with us. Thank you. Speaker, Gary Kendall was 51. He was a volunteer firefighter who died during an ice water rescue training exercise on January 31st, 2010. He was a 17-year veteran of the Point Edward Fire Department. He was taking a course run by a private training company when he died. Adam Brunt was 30 and was a firefighting student from Bowmanville who died during a swift cold water training exercise in Hanover, on February 8, 2015. He was a Durham College student in the firefighting program at the time. He was taking a weekend course run by the very same private training company as Gary Kendall. Speaker, both men died under similar tragic circumstances 5 years apart. Gary Kendall's family called for an inquest after his death in 2010, but there wasn't one. Instead, there was another death 5 years later and another family grieving. Adam was a student in a program who, like many firefighter hopefuls, wanted to gain experience and pad his resume to compete for a job with a fire service. There are many private safety and private rescue courses marketed to firefighter hopefuls. Adam found a Herschel rescue course on Facebook and assumed it was legit because others had taken it. It was a swift water and cold water rescue course. It was an overnight weekend course with 12 students. They learned about safety and techniques and spent the weekend learning and practicing advanced level skills. On the last run of the second day, all 12 students and the instructor jumped in the Saugeen River and floated down one after another through a narrow, swift-moving section of river between two banks of ice. One by one, they emerged through the narrow rapids, bobbing out the other side downriver. But Adam didn't. When he went through the Narrows, he was forced under the water and his exposed strap got caught on underwater metal. The group was helpless to save him. The young students had neither the skills nor the equipment or tools to reach him or save him. They desperately tried, but it was many minutes before actual firefighters arrived and helped with proper tools to free him. By then, tragically, it was not a rescue, but a recovery. TJ Thompson was one of the other students on that course and joins us today. She worked with the other students to try to reach him. She even ran up to the road to flag down passing cars to beg for an ice scraper or an axe or rope or anything to reach him. They had no rescue equipment there. Speaker, so many things went wrong that day, and nothing has been made right. Adam was a firefighter trainee. Sorry. However, he was unprotected. He was unprotected, and others continue to be, and here's why. These private companies are unregulated. Sorry, Speaker, it's been quite a journey. These private companies are unregulated. Oh no, I'm good, I can do this. They do not have to adhere. Oh no, it's a long one. I'm good, thank you. They do not have to adhere to safety standards or industry best practices. Their certificates mean nothing. Their only value is what fire services give them. It is a buyer beware situation. Trainees, unfortunately, assume private courses must be legitimate since they are very technical, hands-on, and industry-specific, and they are allowed to operate in this province. Adam was a college student, but he took a private course that was not affiliated with his or any other college. So Adam was unprotected by any laws or regulations under the Ministry of Advanced Education and Training. Adam was not yet an actual firefighter, so he was not protected by the Ministry of Community Safety and Correctional Services. If he had been employed by a fire service, their training would have had to have met safety requirements. And also the Ministry of Labour does not have jurisdiction because these training environments are not technically workplaces, and these trainees are not employees. So while these firefighter trainees are learning to keep us safe, we still haven't figured out how to keep them safe. None of these ministries is technically responsible for these trainees or their safety. This is an area that doesn't fall under any ministry's jurisdiction, which in my way of thinking makes it a shared responsibility. Alex Van Kralogen spoke early at our press conference. He was the lawyer for the Kendall family in 2010 and again during this inquest. And he said, quote, "I will tell you what I told the jury in my closing submissions. It is crazy, given everything that we regulate in our everyday lives, that this sort of high-risk and technical firefighter training is not regulated. The government has the power to fix this problem, and this matter needs to be dealt with now, especially given this government's history of inaction on the issue. This is not a partisan issue. Keeping firefighters and pre-service students safe is not controversial." End quote. Since Adam's traumatizing death, Ms. Thompson has been a relentless advocate. She testified for hours at the inquest. I would like to share some of her thoughts. Quote, "I was one of the 12 students training on the swift, icy Saugeen River on February 8th when Adam Brunt was killed. Adam's death was preventable in many ways and completely unnecessary. Firefighters take risks when there is life and property to be saved and protected. This was training. There was no reason for unnecessary risks. Reasonable precautions for safety were not taken. It was not a sacrifice for another life. There was nothing gained from Adam's death, but we can change that together. I call on this government to protect this vulnerable group of inexperienced trainees from unregulated training providers who choose to operate below the best industry practice. They need to be protected. You, the government, heard this for yourselves at the coroner's inquest, and you agreed. The safety loophole remains open for trainees and workers. How much longer will it take to protect this province and give closure to the families who have lost their loved ones for nothing? We have waited too long. It's time for the government to act. Thank you. Speaker, oh no, I'm not. Oh yes. Thank you to them. I got more. Speaker, I have written 4 letters to government ministers. I have given 2 member statements. I have asked a direct question to the Premier about regulating this industry. I held a press conference with the families and firefighters to call for an inquest. There has been a police investigation, a Ministry of Labour investigation. I have met with ministers and their policy folk. We had a 2-week inquest this past May, and this afternoon we held another press conference, and now I have put forward this motion. There are 15 jury recommendations, all with merit. This isn't a time to cherry-pick, it's a time to adopt them all to keep people safe. Families, industry experts, lawyers, and the Crown all invested precious time and sincere effort to get the most out of the 2-week inquest. Government, please do not let this inquest be a PR exercise. Rob Heineman, the President of the Ontario Professional Firefighters Association, has said that, quote, the verdict of the jury in these inquests provide valuable recommendations put forward by concerned citizens. Given the disappointing rate of coroner's inquest jury recommendation adoption, I would urge all parties to provide an opportunity for these points to be implemented, hence providing the deceased a platform for change. Doing so will ensure we learn from their tragedies and not repeat mistakes. We must ensure their loss is not in vain. Speaker, we have gotten a lot of assurances from this government, but so far little else. Gary and Adam are remembered as being men who wanted to keep others safe and protected. I challenge all of us in this House to endeavour to do the same. We must adopt the recommendations from the coroner's inquest and keep firefighters and firefighter trainees safe. We must keep them safe because they would do it for us. Thank you, Speaker.